You may have heard the term debt is slavery. You may think that's some esoteric concept or that it doesn't always apply. That is wrong. It is a simple, basic concept that always applies. Once again, debt is slavery. As long as you owe someone something, you must work for them. So how do we make sure we're not debt slaves? There are only two ways to manage debt and not be a slave. Either don't use debt at all or manage it expertly. College students are generally not experts in debt management and finance. That means if a college student uses debt, they're almost certain to become a debt slave. So how do you expertly use debt? Number one, when you borrow, be absolutely certain that borrowing will bring you a return within a certain period of time. In other words, a profit. Borrowing costs you money in interest. You must make a profit to pay that interest and the principal. Number two, when you borrow, be absolutely sure of the exact date when you will pay back the money, the entire debt. If you are not absolutely certain of the date, you will pay back the money. Then you have no idea how much interest you will be paying. You don't know what your costs are. You have no idea if you can pay back the money at all. If you can't pay the money back, you will be a debt slave and be paying interest until the money is paid back or until the end of your life, whichever comes first. In other words, before you borrow money, you must make very precise projections and calculations of your income, expenses, and your personal discipline to pay back the loan. You must make sure that you can not only pay back the money on time, but you have a little extra to do that in case of some unforeseen circumstances. That is how you manage debt. When you're a student in college, you can't possibly know for sure when you can pay back any large loan. Even if someone has promised you a good paying job starting on the day you graduate from college, even if you know exactly how much you will earn, exactly when you will graduate, you do not know if the job offer will still be there when you graduate. You do not know if the pay scale will change in some way. You do not know if that company will have to downsize. You do not know what taxes and other expenses you might have when you graduate. You do not know if any unforeseen personal circumstances will arise, and even if everything goes perfectly, by taking a loan, you will have eliminated your option to change your mind or do anything differently with your life or career from now until you pay back that loan. You will be stuck on one track during a time of your life when you need to be able to consider different options. Borrowing money for what is called a student loan is irresponsible, to say the least. Debt is a very hard thing to manage and control, even for experts, even for people with established incomes. And it's very rare for a student to have those skills and advantages. Anyone who loans money to students should be put in prison for scamming young people, or at the very least, they should lose all the money they loan. Loaning money to students is pure swindle and fraud because students assume if they're being offered a loan, it's okay to take the loan. It is not okay to take that loan. You are walking into a trap and you are being conned. To say a student should be held liable for debt is like saying your house cat should be held liable for painting the house. The cat does not have the skill. And if you're a student, it is very unlikely that you know how to manage a large debt on a long-term basis. But once you have the debt, there's no way out. There's no way out but paying the debt. If you do not manage that debt correctly, you will be a debt slave for years or decades or the rest of your life. Taking on debt is one of the most dangerous things you can do with your finances. Why am I bothering to tell you this? I took out a line of credit on my home, and the next thing I knew, I lost my home. The economy was changing. My industry of media production was changing. I could not control my income and expenses. I could not control what happened in the overall economy. Things went downhill, and I lost my home. The only reason I lost my home is that I borrowed against the home equity. When you take a student loan, you are borrowing against your future earnings. When you don't have those earnings and can't pay off your debt on time, you don't just lose your savings, you lose your freedom, you lose your property, you lose everything, and you're a working slave to that debt and that creditor, possibly forever. Now, this is not some kind of accident. They want you to be a slave. That is why they are offering you loans. Lenders know that students are not usually prepared to manage debt. So while that university or college is teaching you the glories of socialism and the evil of capitalism, they are the most capitalistic sharks of anyone in the lagoon. Putting a young person, maybe a teenager, in debt for $50,000 is a crime. How could they be more evil capitalists than that? If you want to know how life works, don't look at what your college is teaching you. Look at what they're doing. Look at how they grab your money, your success, your future, and they live like kings while you struggle for the rest of your life. People who loan money to students are not good people. They may dress well. They may be intelligent. They may be very polite and considerate of your feelings, but they are trying to rob you and they enslave you. They know they are trying to do that. The idea that everybody needs to use a credit card and everybody needs to borrow is a big lie. I personally never let any credit card balance float since I lost my home in 2011. I've not used any debt of any kind. I've not borrowed anything for any reason. I'm always surprised at how much easier it is to get by from day to day. You don't need to use credit. You don't need to borrow. In fact, your life will be much simpler and you'll be much more successful if you don't use credit, unless or until you're an expert at money management and finance. Most people will never become experts at finance. Even government cannot manage its debt. They keep going back to the taxpayers for more and more. They keep printing money, which will eventually explode in inflation. Large corporations hire an army of finance experts to manage their debt, and even they go bankrupt on a regular basis. It's now very clear that society's addiction to credit and debt has been sold to us by people who do not have our best interests at heart. Lending money is one of the most profitable enterprises there is, because if you can get someone in debt, they pay you every month for years, and all the lender has to do is collect payments. If you look close, nearly every form of lending and credit is a scam, and student loans are among the worst of them. Never borrow to go to school. And tell your friends the same, because when they borrow to go to school, they drive your tuition costs up. By borrowing, they have more money to pay for tuition than you do. So the college just raises the tuition fees. The lenders make money. The colleges make money. And the student is the big loser, spending years trying to escape from that unfair system of debt. Recently, it was reported that Americans have an average of $6,000 of debt per household on their credit cards alone. That means that those millions of households are each paying something like $150 a month for absolutely nothing. Just interest payments. You get no product or service other than another month of being in debt. That means about $30 billion a year is being sucked out of the economy, creating no jobs, buying no useful goods or services, creating no growth or prosperity, just going to make lenders and bankers rich, while creating a massive drag on the economy and putting credit card holders in debt slavery. The peddling of debt is truly a crime with no social or economic value except for those who loan money at interest, and those who can expertly manage that debt and use it to capitalize profit-making enterprise. Credit cards do not help you manage your finances. They destroy your finances unless you are very disciplined and skilled at debt management. It is extremely hard to resist spending money you do not have when that credit card is right in your pocket or your purse. There are a lot of ways the system is rigged, and young people are taken advantage of. But few of those ways will damage you more and kill off your opportunities and future more than getting into debt.